Welcome to a very, very special edition of Let's Ride with Chris Harris Jr. I am Patrick Chiotti. I am one of your hosts of this program. I'm, of course, joined, as always, by Super Bowl 50 champion, former Denver Bronco, all-decade cornerback Chris Harris Jr. But joining us today is a very, very special guest, 12-year NFL veteran, the 11th overall pick in the 2005 NFL Draft, four-time All-Pro, nine-time Pro Bowler, all 2000s team, also Super Bowl 50 champion, NFL Hall of Famer, DeMarcus Ware. DeMarcus, so nice to meet you. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing good, man. After that introduction you just gave me, just made me want to put my pads back on and get back out there. But man, thank you guys for inviting me on the show. I'm excited to get to chatting a little bit.
Well, Broncos country absolutely loves you, DeMarcus. Big fan of you, especially when I saw you signed with the Broncos that fateful day a few years back. I was ecstatic. I knew a Super Bowl was coming our way eventually. As we get this show started, I want to ask you, D-Ware, what are your thoughts on the current Broncos defense?
The Broncos defense, they've been good every year, but a lot of people don't see it because it's getting washed out by, how the offense was playing. I'm talking about, since, me and Chris Harris left, right? Since those Super Bowl winning times, the defense has probably been almost top 10 every year. But you're seeing these high scoring games and you're like, okay, when the defense isn't doing their job. But you go back and start seeing, a couple, let's say 3 years ago, every single time the opposing team's on the 10-yard line, on a 20-yard line, I don't care what kind of defense you have. They're going to score 3 or they're going to, have a big score on you. But if you look at how the defense is playing right now, like the last 2 years, to me, I feel like this is the most consistent I've seen them play. Getting pressure,
right,
stopping the run, and they're playing a totally fundamental game. And the last 3 or 4 games, you finally starting to see the Broncos offense turn it on. Where scoring points, they might lose by 1. Cool. But they're sticking with the teams. There aren't any blowouts anymore, or now they're winning. So it's so cool to see the team have a total turnaround these last 3 or 4 games, and I'm excited to see what they're going to do just close the season out.
It's going to be amazing. Chris, you got a question for D-Ware?
Oh, yeah, man. D-Ware, you coming in the game, they, coming into the league, they had you scouted as like a raw player, just a freakish athlete, not really like an in-betweener. Is he a DN or is he an outside linebacker, and just playing with you, man. What I always loved about you, because that was something that kept me in the league, was the fundamentals, man. How did you transfer your game and your knowledge of the game to be such a technician, to be able to be, like, I would say you are the rush specialist in the league. If they were going to pick somebody to hire to come in and teach people how to pass rush, you pick D-Ware. He's the specialist, the technician. So how did you transfer your game into that?
I think it started in college. Because I was a wide receiver coming out of college. I was about 185, 190 pounds. I ran a 4.7. But the thing is, the only thing that sort of kept me being productive was technique, because I had the genetics, but I wasn't a big dude. And, 2 years, my freshman and sophomore year, I gained like 30 pounds. I grew 3 inches. And all of a sudden, I was like, hold on, wait a minute. Now I'm about 245, 250. I got a little weight on me, and I can play with the boys and not get tossed around. And so the technique was embedded in my, no matter what. And then when I started, now I had everything. When I had all the assets, just like you, it took you a little bit of time. You're a small guy. Everybody wasn't noticed. So your technique sort of, put you on the platform because you didn't make mistakes, because you practiced so hard. You did it all the time. But then when everything caught up, whoa, Chris Harris is just as fast. Chris Harris is this. Same thing with me. So I think it started in college. And once I got into the league, it was something that it put me over any of the other guys. When I started getting older, I wasn't as fast anymore, but my technique was so good. My reaction time was always faster. And, it took a little bit of time, but technique work is where it's at. That's the fundamental of the game. And if you got that, and now you develop your speed and, your talents, I mean, the sky's the limit, which we know that. I'm looking at no fly zone. No fly zone. Come on now.
You can do a half spin on a NFL offensive lineman and
come on. They're still showing that highlight. They're going to be showing that highlight forever.
That's teach tape.
I didn't even know that it was going to work. I remember going up the field and I spun and I said, hold on, Joe Staley is still in my face. So usually if you spin, they grab your back and so you can't spin. So they stop you from spinning. But I turn around and Joe Staley's like right there in front of me. I'm like, hold on, how does this happen? Because he's a really, phenomenal tackle, right? Pro Bowler, probably a Hall of Famer too as well. But then I started looking back at the tape. It goes back to studying and looking at what goes on. And I saw him spinning. And I said, you know what? Maybe if I just spin halfway and I look back there and see if he's going to spin again. And he did. I said, okay, I'm going to wait until when it's a third down when I really need to use it. And that's when I looked around for the third time. It was, a couple of plays later. And he was spinning. And I said, I just turned back around, went up the field and got the sack. Again, that goes back into studying, looking at your technique. That wasn't like a sheer I beat him play. No, it was just being smart and seeing if it worked or not.
Beautiful. That technique, man. I have one more question too, man. What was your mindset coming to Denver? That's hard leaving home, your first team, and it's the Cowboys, it's America's team. That's the team that every kid wants to be on. So what was your mindset coming to Denver?
It was hard because when you leave a team that you've been playing with for 9 years thinking that you're not going to get cut, it's hard. But what sort of made it better is when I walked into the locker room, I saw Vaughn, I saw Chris Harris, I saw, all the guys we played, Aqib Talib, I saw TJ, Derek Wolf, Malik. I can name everybody on the defense because everybody was like my brother when I was welcomed in there, but I didn't know where I was going to fit. So you probably noticed when I first came in, I was real quiet. I didn't say anything. And all of a sudden they're like, no, we want D Ware to be our captain. And I'm like, wait a minute. They put me up there to say, you're going to lead us to the Super Bowl. And Peyton being on offense, me being on defense was probably one of the coolest things. But then I thought to myself, I said, man, the quarterbacks are going to see me in this bright orange. It was the weirdest thing. With this orange jersey, all the quarterbacks are going to see me. But at the end of the day, I didn't know that I had all those monsters that I'm going to be playing with. When you had the no-fly zone, they're going to give me 2 or 3 seconds where it didn't matter. Or I had Von Miller on the other side where every quarterback had 1.5 seconds to get that ball off. And everything started to feel right when I walked into the Denver Broncos stadium and I really saw the true heartbeat of what fans are really like. I'm talking about Denver Broncos fans are the loudest. They're the nicest. They're the most.
It was rocking.
And they travel the best.
Amen.
Everywhere we went, the Denver Broncos fans, it almost was like a home game. And I thought to myself, I'm from Dallas. I remember 105 weather looks like. I didn't know what -13, -12 looks like in the stadium when I walked through there.
I was there.
Listen, yes, they still had shirts off. They still were painted in orange. They still had the hoodies on and the beanies on saying, we're supporting you. I said, this is my place. This is where it's at, man. Denver is near and dear to my heart, man, when it comes to just playing football because I needed that gas that was going to be on my fire for the tail end of my career, and they gave me that.
Oh, D Ware, you got
sir.
I got goosebumps listening.
D Ware
to you,
got
man.
the best stories, man. Him and KG, man. They're my top storytellers, man.
I was at that Monday night game against Cincinnati the year you guys won the Super Bowl, and that was one of the coldest days of my life. And I had about 5-6 layers on, and by the time the fourth quarter ended and it went into OT and I saw the temperature on the big screen, it said -12.
Yeah.
I was sweating. I was taking layers off and I was screaming, and you recovered that fumble to win that game. And that was the loudest I had ever heard that stadium. I've been in there in snowstorms. I've been in there against the Chiefs. That was the loudest. When you recovered that fumble, it was absolutely amazing.
In that game, I remember playing in that game. I never played on the left side. I went to the left side. And I told myself, D Ware, you got to win this football game. Like, that's how much weight I put on myself. D Ware, you need to win the football game. I know you got 10 out there with you, but you need to win it. So I'm thinking to myself, I got to get up the field. I got to get some pressure. I think Vaughn was in the game. And I just told all the guys we need to push the pocket. For some reason, everybody blocked down. The guy just, bobbled, drops the fumble. Yeah. And I'm going full speed, like I'm about to rush the passer. And I'm like, wait a minute. And I closed my eyes and I grabbed the football and I laid on the ground. And I just felt all of my teammates' hands on top of me. Like, D Ware, we did it. And I'm like, what?
Yes, sir.
We're going further than I've ever been. That's where we're going. Yeah. And that was like that point of like, all right, we're going to win the Super Bowl. Because I remember had all the confetti and all the little stuff, after the game. Well, I don't know exactly the parameters of it, but I remember walking into the locker room and all the confetti was going off. And I came back outside and all the guys were like, hey, man, we got our hats and shirts. And I remember, Chris, you remember when we got that game ball and when I got the game ball?
Yeah.
And I said, what are we celebrating for? I said, you guys already been here. I said, I tell y'all better be at this facility at 6 o'clock tomorrow. Amen. And it's an off day. We're going to be in treatment. We got to do what we need to do because we have more on our plate that we need to eat. And all the guys looked at me and was like, that's the reason why we got this guy here. Yeah. I understand. I've never felt winning anything, but I knew what we had was like that year. It was that final year. I didn't know how many more years I had, but I knew it was probably Peyton's last year. Yeah. And I said, we got to win this thing. I'm sorry, fellas, but I'm not smiling right now until I'm hoisting that trophy up.
Yes, sir. Yeah. I mean, I was going to ask you, about your mentorship, what that mentorship and what that guidance meant for younger players like Chris and Shaq Barrett, and especially Vaughn, because I know Vaughn was going through some things on and off the field. He just coming off of that ACL injury, and then you come into the picture. What was that relationship like, real quick, for you from that end, coming in as a veteran?
I think there was all the relationships that I got to establish, it changed my life, like literally. Like every single one of those guys, from Chris Harris, he was like my brother. I'm being honest with you. It wasn't like we just going into work and we just hanging out. If I can get every year to be like that, like the years that I played with the Denver Broncos, I would probably be the happiest, ball player it would, that's out there, because Chris, we did things off the field together. We did things with family. When there was a call, they always picked up. The same thing with Vaughn. We were right beside each other in the locker room, mentoring each other. Aqib Talib. I remember Aqib Talib and Chris Harris and TJ, they getting mad at each other because they said, the meeting's at 8 o'clock. They got a meeting at 7 o'clock. If you don't get there at 6:45, they're pissed, right? And in practices, we're fighting in practice because somebody messed up on a route. Somebody messed up on a coverage. But it was like a brotherly love that we had for each other, because I also knew why each one of them guys were playing, because I saw their kids. I saw their family. I saw their wives, and I knew exactly why they were playing. So to that point of mentorship, I don't even think it was a mentorship. I think it was just a brotherhood, a brothership that we had that got us got us through the ups and downs of the season because we loved each other.
Right. Love that. Well, you got so many characters that we had. I mean, we got some characters on that defense, right? So wild boys, So it was good to have D Ware, an established guy, because we had Pro Bowls. right?
Yeah.
Talib had a lot of our guys were established too.
Talib
So
had a
to
ring.
bring another guy, that had that pedigree, that we were well respected and that was still productive, still making tons of plays. And, that was a big pickup for us, man. But I wanted to ask you, man, I already know the answer, right? But who do you think, who is your favorite pass rushers today? I know you got a couple for us.
I would go with Myles Garrett. He's just one of my guys. He's right here in Colleyville. I got to train with him a little bit this offseason. He's just sheer genetic freak, right? He's balling out. Another dude is TJ Watt. When I think about them outside linebackers, he is just I mean, every year I'm like, how can somebody like him get better? Like every year.
Yeah.
Right?
Insane.
I mean, I still got to support my boy Vaughn. He hadn't been playing that much, but guess what? He's still one of the best. What is it? Reddick, right? From Philly.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm looking at some of the pass rush moves that he's doing. I was like, wait a minute. I blinked and he was already at the quarterback of the Cowboys last week. So a lot of the young guys that are coming into the league and doing their deal, but some of the guys that are already there, like Myles Garrett, TJ, just to name a couple of them, Bosa from San Fran. I mean, these dudes, they looking different.
Yeah, definitely.
They look the same.
No Micah Parsons?
Bodybuilders with pads on. Okay.
No Micah Parsons?
No Micah?
Micah's my dude too. I know, Micah's my dude too because I mentor him also in the off season. Like Micah is like, to be honest with you, sometimes you don't mention somebody because they're already at the top.
That's fair.
Like Micah is like at the top.
Is he similar to Vaughn? What's the similarities?
So the get off Vaughn is faster, but he has a faster second step than Vaughn, right? Now Vaughn has been around a corner, lower than Michael Parsons, but Mike has a lot of power. Like he can actually, power the dude's back. So Vaughn would more like, swipe him, get up underneath, but Mike has a lot more power. So there's a lot of similarities with speed, but Michael has more power. Vaughn has more bend to be able to get around the corner, but both of them dudes are just
insane.
I had to ask you that, man. That's a great, man. They should have been asking you that, man. I don't know why, but that's the best comparison right there.
D-Ware, I teach your long arm technique to some of my high school players too. It's one of my favorite moves of yours. It's so good. Last question for you, D-Ware. Broncos somehow get to the playoffs, get to the Super Bowl. Cowboys, Dak, they're rolling. They get to the Super Bowl. Who you got?
That is a really, really hard question.
I'm putting you on the spot, man.
I know you put me on the spot, and you know what? I will probably do some stuff to piss some people off because at the end of the day, I'm going to wear my Cowboys jersey and I'm going to wear my Broncos jersey at the same time. I'm going to be crisscross, front and back. So
we got to keep his money, man. It's a lot of money out here in Dallas, man. You got to keep that Dallas jersey on, man. I understand.
First Super Bowl to end in a tie.
I gotta play.
Yes, sir.
And the Cowboys, they let me eat.
Yeah,
and the Broncos let me eat. And I'm enjoying all of it. So why have to choose? Why do I need a choice? I don't need to choose.
Both win.
Super Bowl in one place, another place gave me the bread also when I got drafted in the first round.
Yes.
So for me, if I'm in Broncos country, I'm probably not saying anything about the Dallas Cowboys because I'm 94% a Broncos fan. And if I'm in Dallas, I'm not anything about the Broncos because I'm 94% a Dallas Cowboy fan. So if anybody got something to say to me about any one of them teams, I will cuss they out.
Hey, take one-on-ones on the turf. Let's go. Hey, D-Ware, thank you so much for joining us, man. I really appreciate it. I know Broncos country absolutely loves you. 12-year NFL vet, NFL Hall of Famer. Man, it feels good to say that. DeMarcus Ware.
Yes, sir.
Make sure that you follow us on whatever podcast platform you're listening to us on. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at Chris Harris Jr., at Patrick Chiotti, at Believe Network, and Broncos country. Until next time, let's ride.
Yes, sir.